Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and this is the holiday edition of VCTV and talking about our two favorite subjects, fintech and blockchain. We love these topics. We talk about them every single day here on VCTV and how they are intersecting and changing various industries around the world, and in some cases, the world itself, as we've seen how these technologies have begun to impact, whether it be economies, whether it be governments, whether it be the inner workings of each and every one of those countries. But before we get started in talking about these industries today, like I love to do on this particular episode, I got some headlines, some big movements, because we know this industry changes every 2.5 milliseconds. So much is happening. And even though we talk about this every day and we talk about the dedicated topic multiple times a week, it's good to catch up and let us know what's happening in the world. So here's the quick rundown for you today. Coinbase, I talked about this earlier in the week. I'm going to re-mention it. They filed their S1 privately, now publicly. We still haven't seen it, but they have filed their S1 to prepare for a public offering. What does that mean? What will the impact be for the industry? Still to be determined. Hash raised just $120 million fund to start investing in the next era of distributed networks. Hash is based out of South Korea, a great venture fund for those that are paying attention. Also, crypto and payments company Wyrix has now partnered with Visa to start being able to issue cards or credit cards in Europe to start spending your crypto or digital cash. So get ready for that as well. DeFi. Fun fact, yesterday we talked about DeFi, and thank you DeFi Pulse for these metrics, was just over 16 billion. Today it dropped down to only 13.75 billion. Still a lot, up from 1 billion in May earlier this year as we come to close in 2020. The graph, congratulations, has reached mainnet. Check them out. Axie Infinity has entered the test net for Ronin, their new sidechain with Ubisoft. This is a very interesting headline to keep note of if you're looking at doing anything in the gaming and blockchain space. So shout out Noble, one of our regular guests here on VCTV, as he loves and is working in those spaces. Also, Amico Brands, who we've had the pleasure of joining us here on VCTV, just partnered with Football Club Manchester City to start doing a series of games and collectibles, NFTs, on the blockchain. Stay tuned for more on that. Cent has begun selling tweets. Anuj, Gary, get ready to talk about this one. Have begun to sell tweets as NFTs to the community and begun testing this, and we're starting to see some exciting results. I believe the winner for the most expensive in the auction right now is still Elon Musk, so check those out. Last but not least, Ford has begun exploring technologies such as blockchain and geofencing when it comes to their new hybrid electric vehicles, working to improve air quality among cities around the world. Those are your headlines. Those are your rundowns. We got a lot more to talk about here around blockchain and fintech. Maybe we'll get into quantum. Maybe we'll get into AI. Maybe we'll talk about what's happening in so many more areas as we dive in. But before we do, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you're liking what you hear, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today to share your thoughts and insights about different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, and your on-the-ground perspective of what's happening in these areas. And entrepreneurs, what better way to end this crazy wild 2020 and start in a very exciting 2021 than joining us here on VCTV and the virtual stage that we've created for you to pitch us your company, product, or service, build relationships with each and every one of us as investors, also get real-time feedback and exposure to the VCTV community. What better way? I don't see a better way to end the year. So let's do it. Reach out to the team and or myself. We'd love to find the right spot for you and that team. A big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, let's have some fun. Anuj, welcome back. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Introducing myself, I'm an entrepreneur, started 3 startups in the last decade. Presently working as the founder for Yellow Sapphire Technologies and Atotum. Along with my own ventures, I am an international partner at World Business Angel Forum, which is a G20 initiative to promote global financial inclusivity and entrepreneurship across the world. I also work with iAngels in Israel and a family fund based out of Buffalo, New York.
Right on. Welcome back, my friend. A lot to talk about and unpack from that. You also have a great background around fintech. You've talked a little bit about here with Amex and India and making that entire world come together, which I'll put a pin in it. We'll let you talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. But last but not least, so excited. Happy holidays, ladies and gentlemen. We are honored with the great, the one and only Jedi Grand Master, the top of the top, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to artificial intelligence and now quantum computing, the one and only Gary Fowler. Welcome back to the show.
You know, I feel like I'm with the Guardians of the Galaxy here. You know, you're amazing, Kyle. It's so over the top. But anyhow, I appreciate it. Anyhow, it's great to be here with Anuj and Maria and yourself, Kyle. So my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 16 companies. I love artificial intelligence and quantum computing. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. And also I am the co-founder of Eva.ai, as well as a number of other companies. Eva.ai is one of the top AI HR tech companies in the world. My partner, David Yang, a billionaire, originally from Russia, actually originally from Armenia, who lives in the States, is my partner with that. And today, GSD Venture Studios, which is one of the top premier AI venture studios where we curate companies that want to go global and truly want to become unicorns from wherever, whenever, and just to do the right thing. So they're set up. So we look for companies from Africa, India, Indonesia, I mean, you name it, Germany. We have a couple companies from Germany today, and to curate them, because it's with this digital transformation that's taking place now, how do you go out and get the visibility? And VCTV is a great way, Kyle. I remember in the beginning, a long time ago in a far distant galaxy, in February, March of this year.
It does seem like forever.
It does.
I mean,
it seems like a long
while.
time. Remember when it started and people were like, the VCTV, there weren't many viewers. I got to tell you, I get notes from people from around the world today that so truly are watching it from everywhere, literally everywhere, because you're providing a valuable service, and that is keeping people up to date, creating this camaraderie around, letting them understand that there is hope. There's an opportunity, in fact, a grand opportunity if you take advantage of it, to go global today. So it's a powerful, powerful platform.
Thank you. It's those kind words from you and Anuj and the entire group that we have here on VCTV just warms our hearts, both Maria, the team, and I. It's such a pleasure to be able to share the stage with you. And, you know, it's a great way to end the year as well, a crazy one at that. And to your point, I mean, what better way to go global instantly than being able to participate on VCTV?
It's Christmas. It's Christmas.
It is.
Almost.
It's almost here. I mean,
you know something? It's amazing though. Here we are. How many? Almost. You know, I calculated the shows. I'm over 650 shows now.
Which is wild. Yeah, I mean, news. Both of us are mind blown. Look, for the audience, a little shameless promotion here. It is the end of the year. It's the holidays. Just a little shameless promotion. If you are building something, anything, company, product, service, doesn't matter. It's easy. As Gary mentioned, it's an easy way to go global. It's an easy way to meet people, specifically investors like Anuj and Gary. And it's also a great way to get real-time feedback on what you're doing. And the follow-up is great. To all of our audience who follows up with us and communicates with us and reaches out and adds context, high five to you. Really do appreciate it. And really, it does mean a lot and allows us to continue to what we do here at VCTV. But with that being said, we're here to talk about something, and that is fintech and blockchain. So let's dive in. Because we are now live streaming, by the way, gentlemen, on Facebook. So, hi, Facebook. Let's talk about it. What's happening from your viewpoint around these two areas? And then I want to dive into some of those headlines I read, because some of them changed the game when it comes to this. But Anuj, let's start with you. I mean, fintech, blockchain. What are you seeing happening and changing in this short time since we last spoke about it just a few days ago?
I spoke about it. I told you I always look forward to you sharing the headlines. It's what keeps me updated. But since we last had a conversation, I hope you remember I told you about this survey by Goldman Sachs that said, all right, we have the vaccine. That's why Bitcoin is rising. That's why it's going 20, 21, 22. Because people realize that, all right, I can probably take more risk now. Here's the surprising thing. There's an entirely new strain of COVID, which is 70% more effective and somehow, as UK mentioned, claims to be out of control. And yet Bitcoin continues to rise. It baffles me. And it goes on to show that there is still so much going on behind the scenes that we don't understand. Another thing which I mentioned in our last show, that again, Goldman Sachs said, while Bitcoin is rising, people are investing it. Gold will still continue to be the safest bet. Gold is still going to be your last resort currency. That's not changing anytime soon. So despite, again, a very uncertain first quarter coming up ahead of us, where instead of planning things like, oh, what am I going to do after I get a vaccine? We are looking at a very uncertain future where we still don't know what's going to happen. And yet people are taking risk because the market is evolving, because the market is developing. There's another study that came out just a couple of days ago that was analyzing the trust millennials have in different financial institutions. There was Bitcoins and there was the big banks. From 2017 till 2020, the trust that millennials had in Bitcoin has risen significantly by almost 20%, while the trust millennials had in big banks had dropped 20%. Anyone who could have predicted that? Sure. I mean, no surprises there, right? So it really goes on to show that one of the reasons why things are moving so rapidly and then evolving so rapidly is because people are actually now starting to realize in a more in-depth fashion what this technology is. We are now trying to decode there is a lot more to blockchain than just a cryptocurrency. So that's basically changing the game this year.
I love how you brought that full circle as well. I mean, we talked a lot about digital currency, or as Visa is referred to it as digital cash. So Visa, to your point, actually put out a huge amount of research late last week, I believe it was, on central bank digital currencies and the use of, as again, they refer to it as digital cash, and how that will look and act around commerce and transactions. And you're right. I mean, there's so much more to this than just that piece, right? That the underlying infrastructure, those picks and shovels, that technology has so many applications, and we're just starting to really touch the surface on that as well.
The Indian government actually does not call it cryptocurrency. I don't know if you know this, but back in 2017, I believe 2017 or 2018, someone can fact check me on that year, but the government of India actually banned Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies. I believe it was January 2018. It was done in the interest of safeguarding consumers because there is no regulations. You don't want a new technology coming in and then just cheating people out of it. And instead of referring to Ethereum, Bitcoins, Ripple, or anything as a cryptocurrency, they actually refer to us as crypto assets, which I think is much more apt. Digital cash, crypto assets make much more sense. It's a much more simple terms that makes you understand that it's not a currency. It's still an asset people can build, just like you have assets for your company. Why not use that crypto assets? Why not use that blockchain technology and build assets for your company rather than building physical assets or having monetary assets in your bank account? How is it different?
And we're starting to see that as more and more companies start to add to their treasury and put those types of things against their company's growth. But real quick, Gary, I want to come to you next. Thank you, Anuj. We're going to come back to a few of those things here in a minute. But Gary, what are you currently seeing? I mean, you and I have talked about this subject, I feel like 3 times this week, and it's only half over the week. And it's because it's such an important topic. It is so impactful. It's not just buzzwordy. I mean, this is really what we're moving our world into. What are you seeing, or what have you seen change in fintech and blockchain from your perspective over the past week?
Well, this is like this revolution started when you started VCTV, right? And so we came into this pandemic, and think about it, Kyle. I remember when we talked about it in July, we said, it's almost over. Let's put it behind us. Let's talk about, but it isn't almost over. And the situation is with, as Anuj says, with a 70% higher infection, as high as 70% higher transmission infection capability with this new strain, there's going to be a lot of, and there remains to be seen if the vaccine will be effective against it. So we have not turned the corner yet. What we have done is we've actually, with this digital transformation that's taken place, we started to move in some of the right directions. So for instance, let's look at it. If we look at, we've talked about this before on several occasions, but you talk about paychecks and distribution. Why in the world, if I earn the money, don't I have access to it right away? I mean, I earned it, so those funds. So paycheck distribution and being able to get your paycheck after you've earned the money. Then go down through and things like AI chatbots and conversational AI. The ability to, I mean, it's hard to get service at a bank. I don't know what it's like in India, Anuj, but I mean, you can't go in the bank. And I'm even a private client of a bank. It's I got to tell you, it's still not easy because they're understaffed, and it's hard to get to the right person to get those personalized services. So chatbots, being able to talk to somebody about, you got a question. It's like, okay, push 1, push 2, push 3, push 4, and then you push 4, and then it says, okay, that person is currently not available. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you. And you're going like, this is crazy. I got it down because I just called them before the call. So, I mean, we got to have better service, hyper-personalized services. We got to understand, use the information that's available, the spend information, come up with unique products for that person, right? And filling out a loan application, although that we're making progress with it, think about it. It used to be you had to go in the bank, fill out the documentation to get a car loan or to the dealership, get the bank to approve, which could take a week. It's ridiculous. So now it's getting a bit smoother because they have no choice. If they want to give car loans now, and think about home loans too. Why in the world does it take 6 weeks, 2 months to give a home loan? Okay, you've got why couldn't you just go out to all the resources out there and pool the value of the house, get an inspector come out the next day or the day after, inspect the house. You already have the person's financial information and move it forward. It's crazy. It's just ridiculous how much time we take and how much time we waste based on all the data that's out there. So artificial intelligence, using artificial intelligence to be able to help us to make these better decisions. And then of course, digital banking. I like the digital banking thing, but to be honest with you, I like to talk to my banker because there's always something that I want that's a little bit different, right? A little bit different. And when I want it, I need it. So last week I had to call up and get information about my accounts because I was putting together my financials and I needed to get some information. I don't have time to wait 3 days. I wanted to get it now and I want to look at it. Yes, you can go online, but there's some information I needed her to pull some checks out and take a look to make sure I had the right stuff. So yes, I do use with my companies, I do use digital banking. Although Kyle, I got to be honest with you, I'm a lot less friendly with it because I'm afraid of intrusion. That takes me to the next thing with cyber attacks. Right? I don't want somebody getting into my account. It's one thing, the credit card, where I can call up the bank and I can dispute it. It's another thing, it's my debit card and they take the cash and I can't get it back. And so those kind of things. And now with the sophistication of artificial intelligence and the hackers being a lot more bold, anything's possible. So I think from a cybersecurity standpoint, we got to go a whole lot more than where we are today. So then again, look at all the processes in the bank that should be going down through robotic process automation. Should be not. I had a conversation with one of the top partners at PwC who does RPA as a good friend of mine. And we had a conversation. It's like there's a lot of redundant processes across the board through society that could be eliminated so we can focus on those really high value opportunities. So I think that then, of course, blockchain comes in. And for today, as you know, Kyle, blockchain's okay today, but when quantum computers start to really come out, we have a problem. There is a problem, Houston, when that happens, because nothing's going to be safe, right? And we're going to have to be able on the fly when you have that much compute power to being able to go down through your encryption algorithm. Although now quantum encryption, which you probably have heard about, right? So it's a whole new level of things we need to look at. And those unsavory actors are out there always looking for opportunities to be able to game the system. So we just have to be careful. This is a great opportunity. Our society is really leveled in being able to things like cross-border transaction, things like PayPal, being able to send money anywhere at any time, or Venmo to folks. I love that. It used to be a long time ago, we had Western Union. You paid outrageous, you know that, right? You paid outrageous fees to get money transferred over, and it was always a pain. You had to give so much documentation to make sure you are who you are. It was incredible. You got a passport, do you have your driver's license? Do you have this? Do you have a migration card? Do you have, a visa if you're in a foreign country? So those kind of things have changed. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot more progress. We need to hyper-personalize that whole banking experience to make it a lot easier. Peer-to-peer. I remember going over to Lending Club years ago, right when they were getting started, and they were talking about this whole idea of peer-to-peer lending, and it was just incredible, fascinating, some of the things that I had a discussion with them about. So we're there with a lot of it. We've got a long way to go. And this whole digital banks, this whole idea, we just started to probe the digital banking opportunity. And it's interesting, right? It's a whole different approach. Let's take it from the whole private banking side over to the digital banking side in its entirety.
Well, with that being said, I mean, where do we go from here? Because I think you're bringing up some great points, both you and Anuj. I mean, we're just touching the surface when it comes to this next banking, this next really financial revolution, if you will, or evolution around the technologies that we use, right? You're bringing up peer-to-peer. Now we're seeing those on a daily or regular basis. We're seeing the rise of neobanks and other smaller banks as well start to pop up. We're seeing areas where banking or again, financial transactions weren't even considered, and now they are. We've got the idea of daily rewards from credit cards, which shouldn't be a shocker, but it is. You can purchase digital and send digital cash or currencies around the world. You can be rewarded for that. There's so much that's happening. We've even now got the integration of payments and e-commerce into our social media apps and news. I mean, this is something I know that's happening in India, where WhatsApp now has e-commerce and wallet integration built into this. This is pre-Libra or post-Libra, because Libra hasn't happened, but Libra is no longer Libra. So this is what we were supposed to see with Libra, now Demi, excuse me. But now we're already seeing this. So how are things looking from India's perspective, as you've got WhatsApp again with e-commerce built in? You've got some of these apps and a ton of money going into financial technologies locally and bigger broadly, maybe in terms of Southeast Asia.
A small correction here. WhatsApp is not building a wallet. It's integrating what's called as a unified payment interface. So it's technically not a wallet. It's basically a peer-to-peer real-time payment interface. All I have to do is just either enter your UPI code, which could just be your mobile number followed by the system that you're using, the private company that you're using. Could be Paytm, could be PhonePe, could be WhatsApp. For those who don't know, PhonePe is actually a company owned by Walmart. So all the big guys are coming into this sector. And it's actually funny that I don't see this technology in West right now. It really baffles my mind. one of the reasons why I love being on panels with Gary is because I genuinely agree with a lot of things he says.
Yeah.
The requirement for hyper personalization, where a bank has to understand a user's need, and it's long overdue that that actually happened. Taking the example of India in particular, 1.3 billion people, and when you're talking about the population that has access to a banking system, you can divide them in three categories. One, the underbanked, that either does not have access to an account or has a bank account but barely uses it. It's either probably just for getting the government benefit or getting your tax returns. Then comes the population that's using those banking systems, but it's not using it on a fairly regular basis. So they are probably using it to make some payment transfer on a monthly or probably a weekly basis, pay their rent, pay their electricity. And then comes the top tier consumers, the one that are ruling the banking system. That's making use of every banking service there is. Because in India, most of the transactions that we make are now real time. Be it a wallet to wallet transaction, be it a peer to peer transaction, or be it a bank transfer. Most of them are happening in real time. So for those premium customers that are actually using all those services, they do have relationship managers. And instead of creating a banking system where the bank creates a system where there's an IVR to reach to your relationship manager, the way they have circumvented is that the relationship manager actually contacts the consumer on WhatsApp. Simple as that. Take the easiest way possible. The consumer has the number for the relationship manager. The relationship manager know who the user is, what their business is, or what kind of services are they involved in, and then anything that comes along in that category refers to them. If there's a new investment opportunity coming up, that relationship manager know who's the right guy, and he doesn't have to jump through system hoop. He doesn't have to go through sending out emails. All he has to do is just send out a text. WhatsApp, Facebook realizes that. Mark Zuckerberg realized it a long time ago. And that's why he acquired Instagram. That's why he acquired WhatsApp, because he knows that the future will be in technology where users are communicating with each other on a real-time basis in the fastest way possible.
Well, and potentially in so many different mediums as well. I mentioned Ford earlier, right? We may actually see or we will eventually see the idea where not only we are talking, but also our vehicles or other devices are talking and communicating with each other in real time.
The V2E technology that I told you about last time, right?
Yep.
So that's the name of the game. Any company that's actually realizing that hyper-personalization and the requirement for it is actually going to be the one to succeed. I mean, fingers crossed, we are actually trying the same with MedTech in LATOKEN. Fingers crossed. I mean, let's see how things go there. But with WhatsApp, you are now integrating something called as social commerce. So Facebook invested in a company in India that's taking a different route from Amazon. So rather than selling the product directly, I can go online or place the order on their system myself, or I can take up their project. I can take the product, send the images for those product to another user through WhatsApp, and keep a markup in that pricing. It's basically bridging the gap to reach out to people who do not want to either make that transaction online or who are probably underbanked and do not have access to a debit card to use that online. So they are integrating that UPI system, the unified payment interface, to make that real-time peer-to-peer transfer. I can go onto a shop and practically everyone is using WhatsApp in India. So it makes that payment system a whole lot simpler. And that's the name of the game in fintech. That's what should have been the pitch deck for crypto assets when they boomed in 2018, that we are not trying to replace banks. We are not trying to replace currency. We are actually reducing the barrier of entry, that anyone, you don't have to be a tech whiz to understand the system. You don't have to jump through multiple hoops to verify yourself. Just upload your documents, click a picture, and you're done. That's it.
This is a great transition. So real quick, Anuj, I want to switch gears here around where do we go next? Heavy on fintech. We've got Gary with AI, quantum, but also painting a big, exciting picture for us here in the future. And right now, from the blockchain side, I mean, we're seeing new funds arise for focusing around the enterprise, the future of work, whether that be gaming and digital assets, decentralized finance, which many are seeing as the future of finance as well. I mean, with all this money coming in and new funds, and over, just as a little side note, over the past week, I've tracked maybe 18 plus or minus, we'll say 20 plus or minus new fundings just over the past week in the blockchain landscape. So where do we go from here? Where are those exciting opportunities? Where should we be looking to place our bets as investors going into 2021? Because 2020 changed the game. It made some of this stuff more real in terms of advancement and application than it had been years previous. Now, we don't want to speculate too much of whether or not that was the acceleration of 2020 or if that was just on its path, but nonetheless, it happened a lot sooner than most expected. So where do we go from here? Where do all these investment dollars, where do our dollars, where should they be going as we're starting to look at these two industries? And Gary, I'm going to come back to you for a second, give Anuj a moment to breathe. But where do we go from here in 2021 if we're looking to start making bets in fintech and blockchain?
Well, I mean, the situation from my perspective, as I said many times, AI is a new electricity. We've got a hell of a lot of data that's coming at us all the time. So the banks have a lot of data that needs to be analyzed. They need to streamline the processes. So if it was me, I would look at companies that are addressing those issues, how to be able to manage the data, how to hyper personalize to be able to help make better decisions based on things like spending patterns, right? What kind of spend do you have? This is a particular product, and it could go beyond just the bank. It could be all kinds of offers because the bank knows exactly what you're buying. They know where you are. They know your mortgage could be tied in. There's all kinds of ways that they could start focusing on making it more personalized. So as I've said many times, the amount of data around us is so incredible. It would go to the moon 29 times if you had CDs stacked one on top of another. There's that much, and it's growing 62% per year. So we are inundated. We're in a state of infobesity, and as consumers, it's hard for us. We don't even know all the email we get every day, for God's sakes, right? We get inundated with email. Where is it? LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know about you, but the amount of times that I have to check my email in LinkedIn has gone up dramatically in the last year. I'm literally checking every 15 minutes. I'm serious. Like if I'm out with my wife at dinner and I don't look at my email for 10 minutes, I got kind of, I don't know if you're like it too, but I get a little nervous, especially if it starts, I get these, buzzes, notifications that I got something. So we are all, right? Do you have the same problem, Kyle?
I do. I mean, but I'm just, I'm just hanging out. So yes, I have the same problem.
And so
I'm
we're
looking for a
inundated.
text from Gary and from Anuj every day. I'm just constantly looking for it.
And so we have, the banks have to realize that we've got to streamline the process to make it hyper personalized. So 1, 2 is cybersecurity. 3 is in terms of robotic process automation inside of the banks to make those processes that are really, low level processes so we can focus on high level opportunities, high level contacts. And I think that's right. And if, from a banking perspective today, it would make a whole lot of sense to be able to use technologies like Zoom. And I don't know of my bank, I don't know of any of them that are doing it today, but to be able to talk to your person, right? This is like simple, right? Get them on the line. You used to provide personalized banking. Why not do the same thing via Zoom today? That would make it a whole lot better from my perspective. So there's a lot of work that's be done. Some of it, as I've said before, is keep it simple, stupid. I mean, these are things that, that are right in front of us. So we have challenging times. Anuj was just saying with that new strain of COVID that's 70% more transmissible. We've got some challenges coming through, and this isn't over yet. So we've got to still focus on how to make it a better experience, faster experience, more optimized experience, and easy to use. So chatbots, et cetera.
Do you see, so follow up on that, do you see the integration, or excuse me, not integration, do you see the adoption of chatbots really taking place more so next year in 2021 than we have here in 2020. And I throw it out there because I feel like we see them in different areas, whether it's in HR, whether it's in banking, whether it's in this or that. But are people really engaging with them? Is the technology and kind of tweaking the technologies here, but is the AI or is that technology really there for us to begin using them appropriately or how we want to?
I mean, the situation, we're in a point where we have no choice, right? We need to get answers and we need to get them quickly. So what is it all about in AI? It's about the training sets. So yes, I don't, when I use chatbots now compared to 4 years ago or 3 years ago, they're a lot better than they were before. Is it the final answer? No. But the situation, it's just another point of contact, another way to personalize that experience and to be able to get answers. Is it right? And then take this beyond the banking, health insurance companies. You know how hard it is to get somebody on the phone? It's unbelievable. So, and sometimes there's simple questions like, what physicians are that are approved for this policy are in my area? And they say, well, we get 17 variations of this. You can't even figure it out. So why not have it set up so you put that in, a chatbot comes back and here, oh, by the way, Mr. Fowler, here are the 4 that are right directly in your area, and this is how far they are for your home. This is simple, right? Or the bank. What if I want to get a loan? I go to the bank. Wouldn't it make sense if I start to talk to the bank about getting a new car, they come up with 5 dealerships and they've got a deal cut with the dealerships to give you a discount, right? And some concierge service. So you're a great customer. By the way, your interest rate is 1% lower. And here are 5 dealerships in the area that can help you out, and then they send an alert to that dealership. And I'm giving you ideas, startups, alert to the dealership to be able to say, listen, Anuja's coming over. He's going to get that new Porsche Cayenne and, Panorama. Make sure that we know that he likes black with a tan leather interior. Just, please make sure that there's something around he can take a look at like that. And how long would it, if not, how long does it take to have it come in? It's it, right? Simple stuff.
Anuj, get ready. You got a new car coming. I don't know if you knew this, but happy holidays. I mean, you've got to the startups out there, pay attention, founders. Anuj is ready for his new car, so make sure you deliver it.
Come on, we know you want that car. Come on, Anuj. Don't be shy. Come on.
Save the question. I mean, running down some of those headlines, some big news. I mean, where are we placing our bets? Whether it be decentralized finance, we've got storage and compute. So decentralized storage and distributed computing rising. I mean, we've got huge advancements in distributed computing, whether it be in reference to blockchain or at the edge. We've got cloud companies completely changing their models to focus on this. We've got more devices that are capable of that compute power. We also have companies like Airweave, Storage, and others that are coming to light around the storage component. I mean, there's so much happening at the infrastructure, right? Those, again, picks and shovels. But we're seeing this world of NFTs and gaming starting to rise while enterprise is starting. I mean, there's so much happening. Where do you see the opportunities to start placing bets, Anuj, on your side in 2021?
I address that. I also want to add on to the chatbot question that you had. So
please.
You asked Gary about chatbots, and it's interesting for me because chatbots was a concept that came in the early first decades of the 21st century, and we somehow still talk about it. We are actually living in a time of Alexa. We are living in a time of Google Home. So one of the features that I actually see coming up rather more prominently instead of chatbots, it's going to be chat conversation engines. With chatbots, of course, the main component is that there are going to be data set that needs to be fed into the system that will be able to understand. But at the same time, having that conversation, just like you have with Alexa, why not have that with a chatbot, with an organization?
Because, Anuj, something, I got to be honest. I had Alexa in my house, and the time I got up one night and I was talking in my sleep and it went off and I knew it was listening was the time I shut it off because I started to read about exactly what happens with Alexa from my personal perspective. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Exactly. That's the whole point, right? Alexa is someone that's listening to you at all times. I don't have Alexa, but I understand if I had that same system over text, I would use it because then that becomes personalized to me.
Yeah, but the problem is if you've got personal stuff, I had mine located in my bedroom, right? And that thing went off at nighttime. I did not want people listening to all my conversations in that particular setting. So,
Mighty Bezos still listens, mate. The Mighty Bezos still listens.
I
But
understand. I
that's what
don't
I'm
mind
talking.
listening, but I don't want, but I don't, there's, I don't mind the listening, but I don't like it like all the time. And that particular situation, there's some kind of, you got to cut it off somewhere. I literally unhooked it. I had one of those, I had a couple of those echoes and I unhooked it. I just wasn't interested.
That's the
Which is
point,
also
right?
not
Alexa is listening to you, but when you're on chat, no one's listening to you. You're actually typing. And that's when you know how much you want to share. That's where you are the one setting that privacy limit.
Yep,
And that's
exactly.
where I see that value chain operation, that instead of having a chatbot, which is just a one-way communication, or with something that's just identifying keywords, you have a conversation engine where you are setting a boundary that this is how comfortable I am sharing something. And that's the entirety of what the system knows.
So what
That's
we could do is if we had a chat bot that had voice capabilities that would turn on during the conversation and then toggle off, people would be much more interested in using it. So that could be interesting.
right. That's where the money is.
So
If
startups,
anyone's
listen very carefully. There's an opportunity we just talked about.
if
There
you're
you
making
go.
this, let's go to GST. We'll help you build it. Gary will help you market it. Let's make this $1 billion thing.
Yeah.
There you go. Happy holidays, everyone. We just gave you $1 billion business. So Nuj, coming back full circle, where are we placing our bets outside of that great idea next year for 2021 around fintech and blockchain?
One sector I really cannot emphasize enough right now: peer-to-peer lending. That's the sector that I definitely feel is going to explode in 2021 and 2022. We are seeing a lot of bank consolidate, not just in India, but in the entirety of Southeast Asia. There are 32 banks in Bangladesh right now. Most of them are trying to consolidate. Public sector banks in India, which are notorious for having a very strong union, are now consolidating to get rid of their bad debt, to manage their unit economics. So with banks consolidating, the option to get lending, the option to get a loan is going to be your options are practically going down. And at that point in time, in a traditional way, or how we see things as a society, especially in Southeast Asia, a lot more people are going to turn to their peers to get that loans. Historically, that system has worked through introductions. So in a small community, you would always introduce each other to someone who can help them fund or help them get a loan. And when that system comes online, when that system, which has practically been unorganized, limited to very small pockets in different communities, comes online, it creates a massive opportunity. We are already working with a couple of companies in Indonesia, in Bangladesh. We are seeing huge growth in a peer-to-peer lending company just in India, because it's giving you such a great opportunity rather than just being a bank and giving out loan at a flat interest rate, or on basically just the history you have with the consumer. You now have an option to categorize a user in 5 different categories, and you can charge in those categories. So rather than a debt mutual fund, another way of diversification becomes debt lending, where you can either go for a low risk, low reward kind of a lending, or more of a high risk, high reward kind of a lending based on your risk appetite. So peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer payment, that's going to be the key in 2021, 2022.
I like it. I like it a lot. Switching gears as we come to close to the top of the hour here, Gary, quantum and AI. And let's focus on quantum for a second. So we talked a little bit about this around blockchain, but I'd love to hear just your kind of end of the year predictions of where quantum goes next year, because we know that this is going to be a technology that disrupts. Since we learned last time, the wording here has to be very selective. So it will disrupt more things than we can imagine. with its computing ability. Not necessarily reference to blockchain and finance, but in general, where do you see quantum going in 2021? Are we really, really early and this is just something to be excited about? Or is this something to be paying attention to now as investors for 2021?
Well, you know, it's like Star Trek. What did it say? It's a place where no human has gone before. I mean, everything changes. So, I mean, it's always best to try to catch it at the beginning. Now I'm starting to hear about quantum startups. A lot of them are focused around university cities. Well, quantum computers are not cheap. So you need to have the financing behind it, the company behind it, universities behind it to be able to use it. So in terms of where we are, this is the time, Kyle. I mean, because you take quantum and AI, it's going to change our world, completely change everything. You know, the speed at which drugs are manufactured and discovered, the speed at which, I mean, everything. It's just across the board. And so what we look at is in terms of investment for next, absolutely. I mean, I am actively looking for companies involved in quantum computing today in some way, shape, or form. Is it the end all be all now? No, but this is the beginning of that incredible evolution that's taken place, this exponential evolution. And then add the, you know, unsupervised AI where it can start making decisions for you, tied into quantum. And, you know, we better make sure we use compassionate trading sense and that we're making the right kind of decisions with them. Because the last thing we want is a quantum computer with AI making the decisions for us, and you know, nothing good may happen. So from our standpoint, we've got to make sure that we look at it. It's really important to train the AI properly because you don't want to, you know, there's nurturing in a family is really important. The probability of having a well-adjusted kid is great if you nurture the kid properly, but if you don't, you know, anything's possible, and you don't want that, you know. For sure. So we've got a lot of, you know, ethics around AI, where we want to cap some of the limitations, how we want to focus it. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered that I'm not sure we've been prepared to answer before, but we need to do it now. And so so in terms of investment, actively interested. In terms of AI, semi-supervised, unsupervised AI, as this is starting to evolve very quickly. And more importantly, what we've talked about before is the amount of data coming at us is so immense that we can't make decisions on our own anymore. We need these not smart but intelligent assistants to be able to help us across the board. You know, imagine if you had like just this, if you had like an app on your phone that said, who's the best doctor to be able to handle kidney disease? And all of a sudden it said, in this specific disease, based on your patient code. And all of a sudden that doctor pops up, right? Now you can link in to talk to that doctor online and book an appointment. How much better would that be with your life, right? And so these kind of things, whatever it is, car repair, imagine being able to automatically bring it up. This is what happened to my car, uploaded the pictures, here's where it is. 5 people come back with the bid. This is what they're ranked according to the insurance companies. Here's the grade A one, grade B, grade C, whatever. You know, who do you want to fix it? It's like these kind of automated processes are really important for us. And so we need to stay tuned and focus on it because we'll have a society in another couple of years, 3 years probably, we'll be at a point where we cannot make a decision based on the available data. We can't today. How many times with all the email counts and all your points, your Google Drive, Dropbox box, Slacks, Telegram, WeChat, all the time you're getting in a day. You know, we don't even know what we have coming in and how to respond. So we need assistance to be able to tie it together to help us make, you know, decisions and also act like a concierge in a sense to make decisions based on what we like for us to be able to help us.
No, you're absolutely right. And Anuj, I want to come to you for closing thoughts. Anything else you have to add around fintech and blockchain and where we go from here? I mean, I'm sure in a week, based on all just the headlines I ran down and some I did not, because we wouldn't have time to discuss all of them today. Where do you see things here in the next few weeks? And where can everyone find you online?
So, adding my closing thoughts, I mean, Bitcoin is not something new. It's been here for a better part of a decade now, and it's always been the technology of nerds, people who are either paranoid or who are either too nerdy to love such a technology.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why it's never yet been adopted massively is because, one, it's complicated. Two, it's never been communicated properly. And three, we never moved past that phase of it being a replacement currency. This is the time when it's actually happening. So let's open up our eyes. Let's stop being myopic and then only associate blockchain with fintech and with cryptocurrencies, with crypto assets. Let's stop associating blockchain with just DeFi and then something related to the financial sector. Blockchain is a technology that can be more widely adopted. V2E technologies, vehicle to everything, where when it comes to self-driving cars, vehicles are interacting with each other. When it comes to vehicles like Tesla, which are practically a car with a computer that can communicate with each other, you're talking about a more safer environment, more safer transportation system. Using blockchain in that is something which can change the game. Blockchain in gaming, I mean, I genuinely can't emphasize this enough. Gaming is one sector where everything depends upon milliseconds. So if you can use blockchain to bring down the system efficiency by just 5 or 10 milliseconds, that makes a huge difference, because the system is already running at a ping rate of somewhere around 30 or 40 milliseconds. So using all of that, reducing the system response time, making sure that things are as closely synced up as possible is where blockchain can be much better used. And anyone who's working on such a system, don't add blockchain just for the sake of it. Don't add it as a buzzword to get an investor's funding. Build something useful out of it. Use design thinking. Think from the business perspective. Think from the user's perspective, and then design the system.
Thank you, Anuj. And where can everyone find you online to continue the
You
conversation?
can find me on Twitter at Anuj. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me, anuj@yellowsapphiretech.com. Reach out if there's anything I can do for you. We'll be happy to get on a call.
Thank you, Anuj. Gary, to you, closing thoughts. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, these are great times if you use it wisely, and use the resources that are out there. Make sure that you're in social media, you get your opinion out. You want to be looked at as a thought leader, get some visibility, because it's hard for people to know who you are today in this new digitally transformed world, but the opportunities are great. So people are still investing, opportunities are still out there, but you got to go out and seek. Stay hopeful, stay visualized, and move forward. So you can reach me, Gary Fowler. You can see me on LinkedIn. You can reach me there on Twitter, Gary Fowler. I'd be happy to talk to you. We love AI. We love companies in quantum computing. Reach out. Be happy to talk. Thanks. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Anuj. And thank you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, make sure you click that subscribe, give us a thumbs up, check out the archive as well, as we've got a ton of episodes from the entire year of 2020, referencing everything we talked about and then some, really documenting the entire wild, crazy year from all perspectives of investors and entrepreneurs as well. And if you'd like to be on a show like today's with Gary, Anuj, or some of our other great panelists that we have here on VCTV, do reach out. We'd love to have you share your on-the-ground perspective of different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. And entrepreneurs, again, what better way to end the year and then start the next, and joining us on the virtual stage we've created for you here at VCTV to share with us your company, product, or service, to get real-time feedback, build foundational relationships with each and every one of us, and also reach out to the entire VCTV community. Give us a shout, whether it's myself or the team, and we would love to find that right opportunity for you. And speaking of team, a huge, huge, huge thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. And to everybody, if you reach out and when you reach out to any of us, including Gary and Anuj, please do add context where you met, what you heard, and why you want to talk, to make sure that it is a great conversation that continues on beyond today's show. And I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me at Kyle Ellicott everywhere online, along with our great panelists as well. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more VC TV. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Anuj. And we'll see you soon, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.